Hey, welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm Andrea, and we're recording this live from the Secret Kitchen. And my guest today is the one and only Amada Delgado. I am so happy to have you with me.
It's such an honor.
Now, I know we could probably speak for about a week and a half.
More. I could bring all of us, our wonderful cameraman, we can go all over the U.S. and go all over the world speaking about food and our loves and how we love to help our community. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And of course, this is my personal opportunity. You know, I get to cook on that side of the kitchen, but on this side of the kitchen, I get to talk about cooking and talk about food. And you are an absolute foodie person, so it's really I'm looking forward to this. So let's go back to the beginning. I always like to go back. Where did this come from for you? Where did you get your extreme love of food and cooking?
That is an amazing question. A billion questions people ask me. Where do you have the time to put so much love and passion?
That's another show.
How do you design everything and how do you photograph everything? But I had to remember, because you had asked me this question our last meeting, and I think it goes back, it always starts with one particular human being, and that would be my grandmother. My grandmother lived in the mountains of El Salvador, San Salvador, and she made cigars for everybody.
Really?
And my grandfather really didn't like her speaking to everybody, which I'm a caqueron, so I know where I get it. But in addition to having a beautiful farm, they were the general store. So they ran the general store, and my grandmother would always make amazing milk at the end of the day with honey, and she distributed to the children that didn't have, to everybody in our town. If you look at the history of El Salvador, it had a lot of different warfare, but that milk and honey that my grandmother shared with everybody, it brought everybody together. Through the years, I had the pleasure of heading back to El Salvador. We had the pleasure of going to school in El Salvador, and I learned a lot about our culture and our grandmother and why it was so special. And I think my grandmother poured a lot of love and honey into my mother. Yeah. And when my mother left, we were blessed to land in Manhattan. She was a citizen at that time, but she had 4 children, and she did what she could with what she had. So she carried on that little legacy the way that she could with the little money that we had. And I just learned the beauty of sharing a tiny bit of love at our table, whether it was rice and beans or just beans, whatever I had left.
Because it wasn't about what was the food. It was
It was the communal love and attention.
Yeah, communal love.
And there was always somebody who needed something, right?
There always is.
Yes.
You know, I have had the good fortune to have spoken to so many chefs and amazing cooking people, and a common denominator almost always is a grandma with a great love of cooking, and that's just what you just described that.
And my grandma was a rebel because, she was...
Even better.
Yeah, she was the kind of person that many moons ago, you're a female in Central America.
I like that she made cigars.
She rolled cigars, and she was told never to do this because you're bringing down the people from the mountains that are causing havoc to our community, and she did it anyway because she truly felt in her heart that community really is love. And what better way to show your love than something with food or warmth for that matter.
Yeah, there is something about food that brings everyone together, and in the best possible way. I mean, to this day, I didn't grow up I did not have a grandma who cooked. My mom cooked, but I won't say with love, but I learned, she
What was her favorite dish?
All right, well, in my family, if you talk to my brothers and myself, I'm laughing already.
You're making me laugh.
I know. My mom made something, we called it noodles and cheese.
Okay.
And it was like, oh, great, noodles and cheese.
Tell me about this noodle and cheese.
Or my mother would call it Jewish fettuccine.
Okay, tell me about that. So what was in this?
It was buttered noodles, like egg noodles, with cottage cheese.
Okay.
That's the whole thing.
So kind of like a kugel, right? Like a mini,
But it was just, she buttered the noodles, put them on the plate, mixed in some cottage cheese, and possibly salt and pepper, and we just thought it was like the best. Isn't that crazy?
No.
And I think now, on Secret Kitchens of New Jersey, I'm going to find a way to do it, but maybe elevate it somehow as a tribute to my mom.
That would be nice.
Cheese.
How many did it feed? Do you remember how many pounds of noodles she boiled? Was it?
It was probably a pound of noodles. You know, it comes in a pound of egg noodles. And it was really just for my brothers and myself. I honestly don't remember my mom or my dad having that.
Huh.
I don't think it was something my dad would have eaten, oddly enough. But my brothers and I are like, oh, noodles and cheese.
Amazing.
You know, it's just so,
of course.
You know, but that brings me right back to being a kid, sitting at the table.
If we can, that'll be another series, and we could make a series on noodles.
Yeah, well, noodles are, a big part of
very universal. And everybody thinks that noodles come from Italy, and, and if you do the history of a noodle, it dates back to China. So it has a lot of evolution.
It wasn't you.
Love, love, love Italy, but we could share a whole conversation with noodles.
China.
So we have to make that together.
Yeah, well, noodles, and I've never made that.
So a funny twist on food and sharing. Sometimes I like to make things for myself. And the love of cooking and cooking for someone else, I sneak a little TLC for myself. We're road warriors. We're always on the road. I always separate a little something for myself, and it doesn't happen often, but the pleasure of eating something that you make on a cold day where you have nothing but almonds and crushed crackers and maybe clean your glasses from Bratton Law. I mean, I escape with a tiny little thing that I make, and it gives me such pleasure to taste something that you make. Because how many times do you cook and you make these amazing, you're a baker, you make all these beautiful things that you eat and appreciate, because you're also cooking and giving. What is your favorite thing to eat?
I rarely have what I bake. It usually
interesting.
Yeah.
So it's true that the bakers don't touch their goods then.
Rarely, because most of it is given away, shared. Because I'm someone who says, well, what's the point of doing this if I can't share it? The joy is for sharing.
Then how do you feel about never trust a skinny chef?
I've heard a lot. There's a lot to that. I hear people say. Yeah. Is
it because I hear your theory about giving. I have a problem. When I cook, coming from that organic farm concept, we try to buy everything local. And I have the pleasure of living in the most beautiful land that produces everything. And I can't help myself eating while I cook. So by the time everybody sits down, sampling everything, they feel terrible. They're like, oh, you haven't had anything. I'm like this. I'm good, right? I had a full meal before you, so I get the concept. But sitting in my car as a road warrior is such a pleasure to taste what we do. And I am a little selfish sometimes with what I make because I make things that I love.
So what would be something that, it's your day, your time, Amada, and you want to make something just for you to please you? What would you do?
So that's interesting. I have a love of corn, street corn. So nice sweet corn that I buy at the Jersey tomatoes and Jersey corn.
Nothing better than Jersey corn.
Nothing like it. So we buy it in bulk, and then I freeze it for us to have. And then I would buy a big, huge Jersey tomato. Now, I don't know if you know me, but I love tomatoes. And when we were growing up, we had tomato mayonnaise sandwiches. Nothing like it. White bread with mayonnaise and tomatoes went a long way. My mother had 4 of us. I am the oldest, and it was just what we gravitated to. It was easy breezy. She felt in her head that she was giving us a vegetable, and we had a tomato sandwich.
Tomato is a good vegetable,
right? And as time progressed, they did make this bagel thing that Trader Joe's makes. So I always love a nice piece of gluten-free bread now, allergies and all that other stuff, with mayonnaise and a beautiful piece of tomato. It brings me back to my childhood. Sure. It brings me back to a place of happiness.
That's your noodles and cheese.
That is my noodles and cheese.
I get it.
I actually have one worse because my mom, that was not our noodles and cheese. We had pureed black beans for everything. Now, have you ever seen black beans pureed?
So it's not a beautiful,
No, it's not.
visually stunning thing.
Yeah.
No.
No, but it went a long way
Yeah,
for
of course.
children.
Beans, of course.
Beans. And my mother for lunch would prepare black beans on 2 slices of bread.
Pureed?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's like refried beans.
Okay,
But
yeah,
black
yeah,
beans
black.
because they're protein, a lot of protein. It's interesting. As a child, it was very disturbing to many because it looks to see it because
yeah.
there comes this little girl, and her lunch was a little OJ and white bread with refried beans. Needless to say, it was a very interesting childhood. But everybody shared. Once I shared it, and they fell in love with it, and now look how popular it is.
Would you eat that now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yes.
there is something about going back, things that from childhood that we maybe had to eat, but
Yes.
now we eat them because we want to.
That is correct.
It's like the memory.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And it's interesting because my fiance is Italian and he loves refried beans. He would eat that every single day.
That's fun.
It's hysterical. So we do evolve with food, and I think I would be devastated if I wasn't going to either be or share my love for food with a foodie. I will definitely add that in addition to cooking, I also love a beautiful mocktail or cocktail.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we in my family, we thrive for a beautiful cocktail, and we really make an effort of making it special.
So tell me, now I love also a beautiful cocktail.
Yes.
Or a mocktail.
Or a mocktail.
Probably more like a cocktail.
A cocktail.
But tell me what you like.
So we are s'mores people at my house. We are we're deeply married to coffee. Our coffee is our go-to. So I always think,
s'mores.
yeah, s'mores. So this is the season where we concentrate on the coffee drinks. We do coffee and we do lattes, and then we add a little pumpkin puree, or we add a little bit of vanilla and also vanilla vodka. And it's all about the presentation. So we do the s'mores on the top. So all that goodness goes in a shaker. You make it and I'm going to make it for you. And on the top, we put the marshmallows and we fire them up. And we add graham crackers and we add chocolate, and then once again we hit it. So the whole presentation of the cocktail is a walking s'mores cocktail.
Oh my God.
And it's just it's soothing to make these beautiful
Soothing?
things too.
Well,
For
probably
my
very soothing to
girlfriends,
drink,
it's
yeah.
soothing. And my girlfriends are like, I've never had this before. And I said, wonderful, that's what we want. But mixology has evolved as well.
I love mixology,
Yes.
combining all. So that sounds like I can't even totally wrap my brain around it. I will be quizzing you about that.
Yes, I will make it for you one day.
Yes,
yes.
maybe later.
Maybe later. I would bring the ingredients
That
next time.
sounds delicious.
Yes. So going back to you.
Wow.
What is your favorite cocktail?
So I developed something that we call a carabiner.
Okay, tell me about that.
So
You're making me want to go there right now.
I also love coffee. It's my favorite flavor, whether it's ice cream or whatever it is. So years ago, I discovered coffee, espresso vodka. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, it's vodka and coffee
Together.
Come on,
Yes.
what's not to love? So I take my espresso vodka, and I'll usually add, so that's the bean, like coffee bean, and the cara comes from caramel, like caramel vodka. So you put a little caramel vodka in the coffee vodka, and if you want to, and you mix that up beautifully, and I mean, here's the problem, it's delicious.
Okay.
I mean, that's a good problem.
It's a great problem. I'm already thinking of the topping, and I'm going to put a strupola on the top of it. So you get a croissant and you mush it in a waffle maker, and it makes a little beautiful,
Wow.
pan, a little croissant with caramel drizzle and some powdered sugar on the top with a gorgeous straw and a beautiful mug.
That's really decadent. Sounds
Yes, amazing.
right up my alley.
Amazing. So my brain always works with what do we have, and I guess this is for everything that I do in my life, right?
Well, presentation, is everything. Right?
Everything.
And by the way, another little touch, sometimes, depending, I'll add even a little coconut rum.
Amazing.
So coconut, caramel, and coffee. It's just
it's a
exquisite.
spectacular. I can't wait for you to make it for me.
Yeah.
So, besides the drinks and the foods, do you have a best friend in your life that you cook for?
Oh, I do. I do. And, you know, and he is very appreciative. I mean, he's very appreciative of everything that I cook. And he also, he lets me sort of test things on him. He's honest. He's honest. Because if he says, you know, Andrea, I don't think so.
Right.
Then I know, don't do it. Because he grew up also with a grandmother who just cooked.
What a great friend.
So he has a very sophisticated palate. And so when he says, hey, this is good, then I feel like, all right.
Is it more savory or is it more sweet that he likes?
Both.
Interesting.
He really likes both. But, you know, growing up in a big Italian family and having a grandma who just, you know, whipped out a lasagna in 15 minutes, or, I mean, I didn't grow up that way, and it's awesome to me. So yeah, I get to cook for him, and he gets to, well, he obviously he gets to sample everything. And if it's not good, then I can tweak it a little bit too.
Right. Do you find yourself were you an innate chef, or did you learn by recipes?
I learned, you know, because I didn't grow up in a house, I didn't have the grandma or even the mom that was like a great cook. And my mom would be like, Andrea, set the table. But that was the extent for me. It was never like, help me.
Oh, interesting.
But I definitely watched. And my parents had a lot of company, and I thought, we're having TV dinners. Look what they're having in the dining room. I know.
Right. And you know, it's interesting because there's a lot of debate on, if you cook and you're this, you shouldn't be looking at recipes.
Well, I say a recipe is a guideline. It's a starting point.
For sure.
So I'm not a slave to a recipe, and I say that on Secret Kitchens. It's a guide. That's all it is. If it says pecans and you don't like pecans, don't use pecans. Use walnuts. Don't be afraid to change things around to suit your own taste, right? That's how you know you're really cooking.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just taking this list of ingredients and following it to the letter, and you're saying, you know what? I don't really like those flavors. So modify.
It's tough because when you're looking at a recipe, especially for baking, I am not a good baker. I try, I struggle with it because you have to follow a recipe, right?
Yes, to a point. But like, for example, if it says, you know, a teaspoon of baking powder, and you say, let me put in 3. Well,
yes.
Now you've got a problem.
Yeah, we have a problem.
But if it says 1 cup of chocolate chips, and I'm like, I'm going to go a little extra, that's fine.
Okay, good to know.
You learn what you can switch out. It's different, but cooking I love because it's freeform, right?
Absolutely. I think
a little of this,
a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think for myself, cooking is an expression of what I'm feeling.
Yes.
And it came really easy for myself. I'm the oldest of 4, so my sister growing up, she was the chef.
Okay.
And I never, ever, ever cooked and took that away from her as a little girl. I was a silent dishwasher.
Somebody had to do
I was the silent dishwasher growing up, and she was the spectacular chef, my sister Claudia. And she did what she needed to do, and that was her role in our family. I came out of the secret chef stage when I was in high school.
Okay.
But she was the chef, and that gave her a sense of helping our family.
Absolutely.
And we all had roles. We danced in the kitchen cleaning, and we all chipped in. My mom worked endless hours, native New Yorker in the Empire State Building, and we all of us had roles, and my sister is the chef to this day.
But when did you, so now in your own right now, you're a marvelous cook.
I would say so. My girlfriends really love, and they would wish to come to eat every day with a beautiful mocktail or cocktail. And I just grew up eating everything. We come from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens. We lived everywhere, and
the melting pot of all the wonderful ethnicities.
It's just crazy. So I love Indian cooking, but that I have to look at the recipe. I'm getting a little better with the spices, so I go to Edison, I go to the H Mart, and all around the world.
What's your favorite cuisine to cook?
So it would be. It's a mix.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one for me because at any given moment we can do a soup, or we can do tacos. I would say tacos. Taco Tuesdays are my favorite.
Taco Tuesday.
Because I could genuinely incorporate the corn, the refried beans, the cilantro, all the Jersey components, the tomatoes, everything from the farm just goes into a taco. We are a huge fisher family. We fish.
Yes.
every day my fiance fishes if he could or would, but he brings home a lot of beautiful fish, and we make wonderful things, and fish tacos is a staple in our home. So we either bake the fish or we fry the fish. So fish tacos.
When you're getting fresh fish, I mean, to me, that's the ultimate.
It is.
That's the ultimate.
It is. It's a little nerve-wracking because he comes so late on Sunday with this tremendous bag of flounder, and he's like, "You need to make this tomorrow." And I'm looking at my schedule, and I'm like,
tomorrow.
What? It's a lot of work frying and getting it prepared. But
Who cleans the fish?
He does. He's a spectacular captain. Good. He's a spectacular captain. We always have lobster, and we always have blackfish, and we always have trout, and we are very blessed.
You are to have all of that.
Yes, and I love fishing as well. So I am I love. I'm a female angler. Everybody laughs at me, but I always catch the biggest fish, no matter what it is. If it's sea bass, it's sea bass. If it's flounder, it's flounder. And it's my passion. So I tell him I'm his good luck charm. So whatever we catch, we eat. Whatever we don't, we give it back to Mother Nature. And I would have to say, to answer your question, it would be Taco Tuesday. Whether it's ropa vieja from Cuba, I do it the night before. We put the Italian sauce. Whether it's not Cuban sauce, we make the sauce from a recipe from Brian's grandmother.
I like mixing the cuisine.
100%.
I'm not such a traditionalist. I like mixing things.
I agree. It's the best of the best. It's just just put it all together.
What have you not conquered yet in the kitchen that you would like to?
I think we already spoke about it, baking. I am mortified.
You did say,
Yes, I would love to make bread. It's on my to-do list. Baking a gluten-free loaf is my challenge. One day I will. Maybe you could show me, but it's not my forte.
I don't even know how I came to be baking bread, but I'm baking it like a crazy person now. And I did during COVID when we were, had nothing to do.
No, I had everything to do. Believe me, I was the busiest I've ever been in my life.
I was working from home, so I was home, and I felt like if I wasn't in the office, I was in the kitchen.
Right.
And I did bake a crazy amount of bread because I wanted to conquer using yeast. And I had the time, so I mean, every day bread.
That's amazing.
But it didn't all come out good. Okay. I was learning.
What bread is your... There's many breads, right?
Yeah.
Many toppings, many seeds, many designs.
I'm going to say my two go-tos are cinnamon raisin, which I love, and what I call my everything bagel seasoning bread, because I put the everything bagel stuff in the bread. If you put it on the outside and you cut it, all the stuff spritzes all over the place.
Right.
So I like it right inside the bread.
I'm already dreaming of an everything bagel bread with my mayonnaise and my tomato.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm drooling.
Hello.
That
would be... I think it's a game changer.
Yes.
I use it for a lot.
I do too. Well, we catch big tuna, and we have to think of like 17 ways from here to New York on how to make this tuna. We do tuna ceviche, tuna tartare, tuna with the everything bagel on it, and we sear the tuna. Yep. But you and I can go off on different tangents, but I'm going to beg you to make that bread for me, and if I'm blessed, maybe learn. Yeast is a very particular organism.
Yes.
It has its own mind, the way that it goes and grows. But yes, to answer your question, definitely baking.
Baking, all right, interesting. But as far as the cooking part of it, do you feel like there's anything that that's challenged you?
Yes, braised beef or braised beef. Anything that you have to really marinate for a very, very long time. I have a challenge with time.
Oh, well, hello.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I mean, if I had 7 hours of my day, it would be amazing. And that recipe really calls for like a stew, a very long period of time. Yeah. And I'm mortified to do a slow cooker. I'm just scared.
I don't have a slow cooker. I don't have a crock pot, any of that stuff. And I would only do like a pot roast or a slow braise on a weekend.
Right.
It's like who has a time. Monday through Friday, it's...
Right. And we go to bed at 8:30 and we get up at 2:30 in the morning. My fiance is a truck driver and it's go, go, go. And I could make something, and I do usually cook at 3 a.m. I start making our meals and cooking because sometimes we have all these events that we do for our line of business, and we come home at 7:30 at night, and he comes home at 5.
It's a long,
So I label, and he never eats for lunch anything at a store. I make him lunch every single day, and
you're very good.
And dinner, he has a beautiful dinner and a beautiful lunch, and it's kind of weight management for him. He's in a truck for 18 hours a day, so it's easy to stop and so I make a point of cooking at 3. It's insane, but we try. So time is
I know
the stews. I would love to have a time, but my mother did that one day, a slow cooker. She cooked beans and she sent us off to school, forgot to turn it off. The rabbi came. It was all black beans splattered all over the wall. The rabbi, our rabbi, who was down the hall from us in Brooklyn, he goes, "Children, come with me." And he was part of my life tremendously as well. He took us in as his children.
That's nice.
Read the Torah. Yeah, it was very beautiful. And he goes, "Well, everybody in the building is going to help clean."
Yeah, they're going to have to.
And it was a big, tough mess. So I always have that worry. But yes, the long thing.
That's something that I would think is going to stick with you for the rest of your life. That's a bit of a horror show.
It was, and we were in an apartment where in Brooklyn where the kitchen was right next to a bathtub. And we had a tiny table, and it was 4 of us. And the rabbi would always come to check on us. It's Friday, children, Shabbat, and we were part of his community. Nice. And I grew up thinking I'm followed the Jewish religion.
You had a very multi-ethnic background, which I think is very cool, actually.
It is very cool, but for a very long time, I was like, I'm Jewish. And my mom's like, "Rabbi, please break it to her." And I was in tears. I was like, and that dinner on a Friday was gorgeous because it is Shabbat long dinner. And Shabbat dinner is you're breaking bread and you have those stews, and I really wanted to have that incorporated into my life, and it was just go, go, go after we moved. It was very heartbreaking as a child to know that I was not.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the bread you had was challah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I would go to the terminal in New York to go to the one and only to get the challah bread, but that's a whole other animal. So yes, it brings back amazing memories. So I would say the stewed beefs and things that take a lot of time are my tough challenges.
Well, I feel like, when you go to work, and we both work full time, we have a lot going on, that does make cooking challenging. And I know for me, a lot of times I make soup and then I have it in the fridge, and soup and salad, it's all made up, and that's what I'll have a lot of times because there's no time.
Right. We were going for Trader Joe's for a very long time. They're a huge community partner for myself. We do a lot of flowers and a lot of love. So I started buying a lot of things from Trader Joe's that were prepared.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of.
They have a lot of good speedy things, but you have to watch the labels.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then I started getting back into more of the organic things. But you do have to get up early, and it is a challenge. 3 a.m. cooking pots and pans, and you have like Alexa going, and you're cooking all these crazy things.
I don't know if I could find my kitchen at 3 a.m.
I know.
Really,
it's wild.
That's really something.
But it's a devotion, right? It is something you have to have in your heart, and you're going to say, "I love my fiance, and this is what my dedicated love for him is," and he has a warm meal every day.
I feel for me when I come home, even when I am really tired,
but I don't make one for myself.
For him.
Only for him.
Right. Well, we don't always love ourselves as much as we love other people. Yeah. But I find all the chopping and slicing and dicing almost not almost, it is like a meditation.
For sure.
I turn on the music, I'm in the kitchen.
What do you listen? What do you listen to?
I have my playlist on.
Very nice.
I'm a classic rocker.
Wow. Who's your favorite?
Oh, that's
Eric Clapton?
I do love Eric. It's hard, I don't really... sometimes I just want to hear all Bob Dylan.
Yes.
Sometimes I just want to hear the Eagles. sometimes I need a mix.
Right.
But I'm a classic rocker.
I love it. Do you dance while you cook?
Yeah, well, as much as you can around the kitchen. Yeah, we got to be careful with the knife.
Right, I gotcha. My kitchen is really tiny, but we grew up cleaning and dancing. And we do that all the time. But like, again, music, happiness, and food are
well, music
so
and cooking. You know, when I come home, the music goes on. When I'm cooking, the music goes on. It's just part of. It's part of it.
I'm like learning that you're more like a soul sister now to me. Like we have a lot of intertwining.
And if you can open
passions.
up, have a little wine or a cocktail. And then the problem with the cocktail, though, I get so distracted that the next thing you know, I didn't do anything, or I forgot to light the oven, or something like that.
What's your favorite go-to wine?
I'm a Pinot Grigio person.
Interesting.
And my red would be Cabernet Sauvignon.
Mine too.
Those are my two
What region
favorite.
would you like your Cab Sauv from?
I'm not going to say that I'm such an expert that I would just drink it because it's Cabernet Sauvignon.
What brand do you love? I mean, what house
I'm
of
looking at my
vintage?
what is that? The God, I forgot. Yellowtail.
Yellowtail.
I buy yellow. Oh God, look, I'm a walking liquor store.
No.
Yeah.
See, all these things I'm pulling from her, right?
Yeah.
She's my star today.
But yeah, look, I definitely like wine, and I definitely like my espresso vodka.
Very nice. I'm going to turn you into a brand that I absolutely love and adore. It's called 90 Plus. They have an array of different vintages
90 Plus.
From the Sauvignon Blanc to a Cab Sauv. So Yellowtail is really nice. It's affordable, and you're used to it. But sometimes I feel like if you don't decanter it, or if you leave it a little too long, it just spoils. 90 Plus is a spectacular.
It doesn't last that long.
Yeah, it doesn't. But try it. It's very 90 Plus is very affordable and very, very yummy. It goes with anything that you cook. If you're making even sauce on Sundays, the bolognese. There goes all the wine that you have left over for the week.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Well, Amada, it has been such a pleasure to have you here.
Vice versa.
And we might need a part 2.
A part 3, 4, 5, 6,
volume
7.
1, volume 11. Because I know we could go on about a million different things.
Yes.
So really, it was my pleasure today.
It's my pleasure this morning. I always dreamt about how do you meet amazing women and how spectacular they are, and how do they balance life. And you always have to find something common. I have the pleasure of knowing that you are going to be my foodie soul sister.
Oh, for sure.
And we are going to make those amazing cocktails. We're going to use what you love, and we're going to do an improv mocktail show.
Yeah, not
mocktail, just
I'm good with that. We'll have a little classic rock going in the background.
Oh, nice.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. We so appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. You keep me inspired. I'm Andrea. This is Amada Delgado. We'll see you next time in Secret Kitchens of New Jersey. Ciao. Bye, everyone.